All right, well, greetings, everybody. Welcome to the Megapod, a very interesting Megapod this week. By the way, I am Chad Allen, as always, from the IndyKast podcast, where you're listening to us right now. You do your intro. Why am I introing you? You're professional.
I am the officiant Kent from Turnbuckle Trash Talk. This is a really amazing opportunity we have here today.
We don't get a chance to cross over episodes too much with other companies. When we do, it's usually over the internet and things like that. We've crossed over with like our friends from Wrestling Cheers and the like, but they're all the way out in Ohio, so it's a little hard to do these live and in person. So it's really cool to be able to do these live and in person. And we are live here at the Gulfview Event Center, right here in the Gulfview Square Mall, in lovely scenic Newport Richey, Florida, which I love, except for the traffic driving up here from Tampa is a bastard, but that's a whole nother story right there. But we are here for a Punk Pro Wrestling's most recent show, and we're going to go over that. We're going to hopefully have some people to come over and guest with us a little bit and kind of go from there. So, Kent, what are you excited about so far for this?
Well, honestly, it's a testament to how great of a show Punk Pro Wrestling puts on that we happen to coincide and collide at this show, so to speak. So I'm super excited. This is actually my first ever Punk Pro show.
Okay.
So I'm super, super excited to be here. I'm super excited to see what these guys are going to do tonight. All I've heard is good things about Punk Pro shows, so it was only a matter of time before I got out here.
Let me ask you, have you got a chance to watch any of the previous Punk Pro shows, either the ones online or some of the clips that they've had up? What have you seen so far?
I've seen some of the clips, and I've absolutely loved everything I've seen. Of course, the power bombing of a 10-year-old.
Choke, yeah, definitely.
Or choke slamming, sorry, yes. That was newsworthy and totally amazing and made me even more excited to be here.
Of course.
But, you know, this is action you just don't see anywhere else in Florida, in my mind. Definitely. Maybe even on the Indies entirely. I think they put on a great show. They bring in some of the best talent, and
Definitely.
There's just too much to name as far as highlights.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the matches that we have on here tonight. I do know that we do have a Get Your Shit In match, a six-way match. I do know some of the competitors that are supposed to be on there. People like Dick Danger, definitely a friend of the show. Aspen Rose is going to be in there. The Midnight Mermaid is another one that's going to be in that one. What do you think of the Get Your Shit In scramble match?
I think that is just a perfect commentary on the state of wrestling. The fact that type of match even exists. And I think that it's a great way to showcase it and harness it into a show without having a match just be a Get Your Shit In match. They actually named it a Get Your Shit In match, and I think that's absolutely fantastic. I will actually put in a plug here really quickly for Fully Gimmicked, because I got my first Fully Gimmicked shirt, a Dick Danger shirt.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Of all shirts today. So I will be rooting for Dick Danger in that match.
Part of the Danger Zone, I believe, is that we've officially went the PG route on naming his fan club. Okay, very cool. What else do we have on the show tonight? Well, obviously an important one to me, because it is the Wrestling Nerds Radio Network Internet title tonight. Our champion Drennan will be defending against we have the absolute worst Drennan versus the absolute best Hunter Law. So what do you think of that matchup?
Well, assuming Drennan is actually going to defend the title, I refereed his match with Barrington Hughes at Mayhem on Mills, where he outright refused to defend his title, though he will have to now because of the stipulation of that match. I think that if that title is actually going to be on the line, I think we may see an absolute title change tonight.
Very nice. Oh, so heavy prediction on that one with the possible title change. So now Drennan is famous for being very sneaky, to say the least, as we proved, like you said. You were reffing the match where it was supposed to be him and Barrington for it, and he, wasn't going to do anything with that one. So I'd be interested to see what he's got up his sleeve, though, because he is definitely one to watch on that one. So,
well, that's true, but Hunter Law also has some experience in being sneaky himself in some of his other appearances. So I could see him having that in his mind and having some, defense lined up to prevent Drennan from pulling some of the tricks of the trade, if you will, in keeping that internet title.
So let's see, what else do we have here? I know the main event could get very interesting here because the main event was scheduled to be Troy Hollywood taking on, and I'm sorry I'm bringing up I should have been a little more prepared in bringing up stuff here on this one, but I don't care. But he was supposed to be going up against a former, I hope you're going to edit this too.
Well, let me ask you this while you're looking.
Yes, please.
What is it that has made you such a fan of Punk Pro? Obviously, other than the connection to the product, you're way more experienced at seeing these shows than I am, so you must have a vast wealth of knowledge. What are some highlights from the past? What draws you to these shows?
I think I've been to almost all of them. I've only missed a couple, one because I was out of town and one because I was so sick as a dog it wasn't even funny. But it's the overall attitude of these shows. It's the feel of them. It's the don't care attitude that the company has, and not that it doesn't care about its wrestling or the fans or anything like that, but it's the they don't care about like what other companies might be doing, what the big companies might be doing, what they're what other people are doing. They're here to kind of set their own path on how they're going to handle it, and that's what Punk Pro is all about, and that's definitely what I love about that one from there.
So they're almost like counterculture atmosphere. I absolutely agree. I think that there is kind of like a standard that especially the WWE has placed on wrestling as its entirety, and it's nice to see something go outside of that. I mean, that's what's made CZW popular. That's what's made ECW a thing when it was. So I think seeing something like that, again, gives me hope that we may possibly, fingers crossed, head into a second Attitude Era if something like this does take off.
So here's how I would like to reword that. I hope we move into a second golden era of popularity, but I am not necessarily interested in going back to the Attitude Era. That era, though, was good for the time frame. I think I think we're in a better spot overall now, where like going through some of the bra and panty matches, the excessive. And don't get me wrong, I curse all the time, but excessive language for no reason other than just to be edgy, I don't think we need anymore. I think with good talent and good wrestling and interesting stories for people to watch, make all the difference in the world. And I think if we get to that, which is a lot of what the Attitude Era did have, yeah, you're absolutely right. We could make it where this could become mainstream again, and I would love that to be the case.
Oh, certainly. And dropping a bunch of those unnecessary shock and awe tactics that were popular in the Attitude Era. I think that wrestling, while it does appeal to children and has often been catered to children at times, I think that during being a formidable young man during the time that the Attitude Era was in its prime, I didn't feel like it ever negatively affected me. No. In fact, it made me more interested in becoming a wrestler. So I think that fear of, being a little more edgy and a little more intense can go away. I really think that they need to be less worried about that and more worried about putting on a supreme product like they do here at Punk Pro. So,
well, here we got some of the matches up here now. Zachary Cooper will be taking on Gabe Zilla in a Hoss fight, which looks like that's going to be amazing. That's going to be just a battle of giants right there. I will be honest, Gabe Zilla has been here for a couple shows now. I love him every time he's here. Zachary Cooper, I'm going to probably default to you a little bit on this one because I've seen some of his matches online. I have not gotten to see him in person yet, so I'm looking forward to that being the case today, that I get to see him in person. So
I've actually had the privilege of refereeing Zachary Cooper on his own several times, but I've actually seen this matchup before.
Okay, yeah.
And with how evenly contested it is, it literally is a coin flip on who's going to win. And it's going to be an incredible match. I guarantee it. If their Wednesday night proving ground match just a month ago is any indication, it's going to be nuts. It could steal the show. I mean, even though this is a action-packed show, nobody expected going into that particular show that was going to be the match of the night, and it clearly was. So.
And then, by the way, Troy Hollywood was supposed to take on Caleb Conley, so I apologize, I botched that earlier. From what I've heard, Caleb has travel issues, so he did not make his shows for this weekend. So that does leave us to a very interesting question of, who does he face then? Who is Troy Hollywood going to defend the Get Your Shit In title against? And that does leave open a lot of very interesting questions on that end of who that could be. So any thoughts on who you think it might be?
Honestly, it could be anyone. I mean, who would have expected Izzy getting in the ring?
True.
So he may pick someone from the audience at random and have a wrestling match, or we could see someone have a repeat performance from an earlier match if he does put an open call out. So I've seen Hunter Law and Troy Hollywood fight each other before. It's always an incredible match. That would be something I'd be interested in seeing. Nice. But there is the possibilities are endless. I couldn't even guess. I mean, Cookie Monster could come out. Who knows?
Okay, if we have Cookie Monster show up, I'm done. That will be amazing. I will never have to come to a wrestling show again because we'll have hit everything. Another big one that I'm interested in here, Wolf Taylor, the Deadbeat, who I think you've definitely refereed some of his matches, will be taking on the Danny Vincent, the host, sound guy. Zach Romero has a whole litany of things for how he introduces Danny Vincent. Speaking of Zach Romero,
hello.
Zach Romero's going to jump in and sit with us, everybody. Hi. Co-host Zach Romero.
Hello.
So we're talking about the Danny Vincent Wolf Taylor match. Any thoughts on that one?
That match has actually been suggested a half a dozen times now in the state of Florida, and it's always cursed and never comes to fruition. So we're pushing our luck
that it's not going to be cursed tonight.
That's actually going to happen. The most hyped, wanted match in the history of Florida is now. I feel like I should be here to proofread here because this card is subject to change.
Well, and actually we just got finished talking about that, so I'm going to make this a very interesting one then, because we did just talk about the Get Your Shit In title match,
right?
Which was supposed to be Troy Hollywood versus Caleb Conley.
Correct.
We did just mention that Caleb did have travel issues.
Correct.
So if you're willing to break some news here on what that main event may be now, that would be very interesting.
Well, as is Punk Pro norm, that is somewhat up in the air.
Okay.
Because what we're going to do is we're going to have basically some qualifier matches at the show this evening, kind of to start things off. The winners of those qualifiers will then go on to meet Troy Hollywood in the main event for the Get Your Shit In title. So the Get Your Shit In title will be defended in a multi-man contest,
Very
as
nice.
It should be.
As it should be, because it is a Get Your Shit In title match.
Yes.
So also we let's go. Actually, we'll keep going here on this one, as Zach and I both have the cards in front of us now. Going Rogue, the first time in 2 years.
Correct.
The teaming up of Chip Day and Aaron Epic.
Correct.
Are taking on Technically Numero Uno. Tell us a little bit about Technically Numero Uno.
They are
a team I do not know very well.
Yeah, they're basically young lions, and I use that term purposely because they've frequented Chikara. But they are two very, very skilled individuals coming from Tennessee, and they are coming down here to kind of prove themselves in the South and to really sort of advance their own, like kind of popping up on people's radars. But the burning question is, how many nicknames is Going Rogue going to get? Because Chip Day has one of the longest list of accolades and nicknames in wrestling. And so I cut it down to each of them get 3. So Aaron Epic gets 3, Chip Day gets 3.
Now, does the team get 3? Do we have made?
If they had ones for the team, I'm sure that would be demanded. But no, right now it's just equal parts of them.
And then tell us a little bit about the Get Your Shit In match. We were talking a little bit about that earlier as well. We did mention Dick Danger.
Yes.
We did mention Aspen Rose.
My friend.
Oh.
Card subject to change.
Okay.
The Get Your Shit In scramble is now Speedy Arnez, Victor Vences, Beastly Brody.
Beastly Brody, okay.
Robert Martyr, Dick Danger, and Moxie. So there's actually a 6-man Get Your Shit In.
Okay.
And then we're having a triple threat ladies contest.
Very interesting.
Yes. So yeah, that's going to be buck wild. I believe we're at 8 matches overall. So it's a shorter show technically, I guess, in our history.
Well, nothing.
But 2 title defenses. So you've got Troy Hollywood with the Get Your Shit In. You've got Drennan defending the internet title. And then potential future contendership ideas for maybe a tag team division. Right. No guarantees on that.
Now, obviously, you're going to be in the ring for the whole night. You're announcing, so it's hard for you to probably pick your favorite baby in this one.
Yeah, I feel like legally I'm not.
You can't answer that
question.
Not
a part of the secret cabal. I can't throw that out there.
Which one you think you're most excited for? So,
can't.
No?
No.
Okay. So
I'm excited equally for everyone.
There you go.
That's what my official stance is.
So we were just talking about how the massive. Well, I was going to ask him.
He's going to go. I think he's bringing a guest over. For
well,
us,
fantastic.
While he's doing that,
so,
but ask the question away anyway.
Well, I was going to ask him about the massive appeal.
I'll answer like I'm Zach. Though.
Oh, sure, okay. Well, Zach, what was it that inspired you to come up with a show like Punk Pro Wrestling that would have the massive appeal that it ended up having?
Actually, I have a partial answer to that question that I don't even have to fully answer is that, because we've kind of talked about this on the IndyKast before, that Zach and Luna and the people that are part of the secret cabal, as he mentioned, were kind of discussing how they felt like there were certain things that happened on the Florida indie scene all the time, and that there were pieces that were missing from the Florida independent scene. And that they're like, well, we could probably do that. And they have somebody who works for another company who's run shows before, I won't name names. They were talking about, well, how much is the normal cost to run a show? And it was actually surprisingly more affordable than they thought it would be. So that was definitely one of those moments where they went, well, if it's not going to completely like bankrupt us, and we can put on the type of show that we like, that we think people would be interested in, why not? And then around WrestleMania weekend a few years ago, they were in the Orlando area, so they had the first couple shows there, out in that area. And then from there, it's kind of moved around and come down here, and they've been able to, like we've said, been able to put on a show that's become very interesting. And the good part about it is it's been amazing, to me at least, watching from the sidelines. I'm not part of the cabal, but I'm just outside the circle. Thanks to the podcast and stuff, but that other companies are amazingly willing to like work with each other and try to make things work out and do shows on different times, and work with getting talent together and having all that come together, but still having them all be different shows. And so I'd like, and a big shout out to that one, to Ignite Wrestling. Yes. Because Kim's amazing, and that's definitely one of the people especially that we see all the time that's willing to like work and find ways to make things come together that way. We love stuff like that, but they have a completely different show than what Punk Pro does. And then you've got like GCW that has a completely different show from that, who's been excellent. And now we're starting to see all these companies that aren't just going with the typical status quo. Nerd Street was another one that I gotta hype out there. Nerd Street was excellent for being able to come up with even something different from that. So the fact that everybody's willing to come up with Mayhem on Mills that you mentioned earlier, I want to get them too. Another show that's complete. They just had a thing where people went through time and space for a while during a match. I mean, I don't know how you can't be excited for all of that and what's going on with it. I think that's the amazing part of it all. So.
Well, and along with, I want to give a shout out to SIW's Bar Wars that they host over in Clearwater. It's such an exciting time to see such creativity coming to life after, I agree with you, kind of a status quo that was running where you could see the same show in 4 different locations, or all 4 of those shows running at the exact same time. Right. It's better to see cooperation amongst the indies. I think everybody deserves to make money in this business. Definitely. I think everybody deserves to have a spotlight in this business. If they're willing to put their money and their time and their effort into it, I think they deserve to be able to say, our show is the exciting thing going on today, not, well, out of the 5 shows running at this exact time, we're lucky you picked us. Right. Like, I'd rather see everybody get to put their best foot forward rather than clawing and fighting and biting to get their spot. Right.
And like I said, with everybody, and it's becoming more of a thing, I think, on the overall indie scene across the country. I mean, obviously there's been issues where other companies are backbiting each other. I think there was even... Was it in Chicago recently? I think I saw there was a company that's like, if you're working for them, you can't work for us type of deal. I think that shit's so ridiculous. It's like, if there's a talented wrestler who should work for you and the fans want to see him, the fans should be able to do so. And I don't see why that's such a hard thing to do, but for some places it is for some reason. So.
Well, and it's hard enough to try and make a living in this business, but to be limited in ways to make that living by a promoter, I'd want to say, as a referee or as a talent, I'd be like, well, you better pay me way more than they would offer to pay me if you're expecting me to limit where I'm going to work.
Right, exactly. So should be, like I said, sorry, we have an impromptu situation going off in here right now. I wish you could see what's going on over here. We're not going to turn the camera, but it's fun anyway. But no, it's wrestling's in a good spot right now. Like you said, I think, and especially with things like AEW on the horizon, I think next week, isn't it, that they start up their Double or Nothing show coming up?
Yeah, next week is StarCast 2 and Double or Nothing, and I know they've got a bunch of great events happening at StarCast. Wish I could be a part of it, for sure.
Oh, yeah, don't we?
But they've also got the upcoming Jacksonville show, I believe in June or July, so that's going to be exciting too.
Fighter Fest, I think they're calling it.
Yeah, Fight for the Fallen, I think is what it's called.
Fight for the Fallen?
Yeah, so that's very cool. I'm really hoping things work out with AEW. I'm really hoping all the success in the world to them, because it's not about AEW versus WWE. It's about AEW and what it could do for wrestling.
Sure.
In my mind.
Yeah.
So, but that aside,
Right.
you were mentioning earlier Wolf Taylor versus Danny Vincent.
So Wolf Taylor versus Danny Vincent, which, like Zach was saying, a lot of requested on that one, but seems to be a little bit cursed on that one. Thankfully, it doesn't seem to be tonight. So we'll knock on wood and hope that stays the case on that one. Danny Vincent, probably one of those guys, I think one of the best guys in Florida for people that you absolutely love to hate. Which is wonderful. But then Wolf Taylor, interestingly enough, a guy that you would think you would want to love to hate, but is almost become the weird, lovable, angry uncle that you might have at a Thanksgiving who like has too many beers and then says the wrong stuff, but it's funny, so go with it.
Well, I was able to work with Wolf Taylor and Beastly at Mayhem on Mills, and having worked with Danny Vincent dozens of times,
Yeah.
I am excited. Even if this is a one-time chance to see this match,
Right.
This is going to be a match with absolutely zero limits. These guys hold nothing back in terms of violence, in terms of aggression, and in terms of getting the fans interested, for sure.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, no, the crowd is definitely going to be into this one, I'm sure of it. And like I said, so far, just looking at the card that we have here, and even with the card subject to change that Zach mentioned earlier, I am definitely not concerned about this being I don't see a weak match on the show right now, so I'm hoping that continues to be the case, though. So
No, most certainly, and I think that if you people at home are watching this and weren't here at this show, I can tell you, even with all the changes, even with it evolving the way it is, you're going to regret missing it because it sounds like it's just going to be absolutely dynamite. So I've been talking about my picks in these matches.
yes.
What about you? Get your shit in. What do you think?
Well, get your shit. Now that we've changed, it's hard not to back Dick Danger. It's just you got a soft spot for the little guy. You want to tussle his hair. He's adorable. So we'll definitely go with that one. For the women's three-way, since we don't know who's in it, Zach left us hanging on that one. I mean, Aspen Rose is obviously going to be one of them, and it's hard to bet against her, but it depends on who the other two are. I mean, it could be anybody. So we'll be interested to see who that one is. Gabe Zilla and Zachary is going to be, I don't know if we can pick them on that one either. I mean, so the one you refereed, who ended up winning that one? Let's use that as an idea here.
I believe it ended up being, I'm trying to remember, the match itself was the memorable part, not the result for
Okay.
me, funny enough, because even standing in there, having to count the pinfalls, having to do everything, I was in awe the entire time of this masterful hoss battle that was happening right in front of me. So I believe Gabe Zilla walked out with the victory in that one, but I may be wrong.
Well, I'll throw my prediction on this one then. Gabe Zilla so far undefeated in Punk Pro Wrestling, so it's hard not to think that might not still be the case. So I'm going to go Gabe Zilla on this one, but it'll be darn close. So we'll definitely say that.
Well, and with Zach Cooper being new, he comes in with a disadvantage for sure because Gabe Zilla has the momentum behind him, has the desire to keep that undefeated streak, which may give him even more of an edge in that match. So I actually think I will agree with you. I think Gabe Zilla will take the victory on that one. Zach Cooper, taking nothing away from him, and you're absolutely right. There's no really true way to pick a winner. It's too close.
And then get your shit in. So we're going to wrap this up real quick. Get your shit in. I'm hard-pressed to bet against Drennan. Like I said, I think he's going to sneak one out. And then Troy Hollywood continues to hold. So.
Joining us at this time is Johnny Florida, who has a very special unveiling for us here at Punk Pro Downfall of Us All. Johnny, first off, tell us a little bit about yourself and then what you've got in store for us.
What's in the box? Sorry, I could not help myself on that.
Hey, it's more entertaining than me, trust me. A little bit about me. Well, 29 years old. I've been a wrestling fan for over 20 years. I first found wrestling. I was flipping through channels as a kid and found WCW back in '98. You know, my favorite wrestler back in the day was Scott Steiner. So, growing up, and now modern day, you know, some of my favorites are guys like Grado. I know some people think it's unorthodox, but I love Grado. You know, and I got into indie wrestling just because we're here at Punk Pro. I got into indie wrestling in 2003, 2004. I grew up in Long Island, and I got to go to the NYWC, the New York Wrestling Connection. So I got to see Mikey Whipwreck, Pat Buck when he was Roo Star, Wayne the convenience store guy, all these other guys, and
Wayne, the convenience store guy.
He was-
I love indie wrestling so much.
Yeah, I know, right? But
Jesus Christ.
but that's where I got to fall in love with independent wrestling, and I'm a major history buff. So going back in time and looking at all this, even while I served in the army, and even then I tried to follow as much as I can with the news and all that. With wrestling, I've always been a big fan, and with independent wrestling, people have talked about when it comes to different things in history or with this nation, some things like the laboratories of science or whatever made so many ways. That's what independent wrestling is. It's the laboratory of wrestling. So much creative stuff comes through. Back in the days of the territories, it used to be each territory would do that. Now, with today's day, independent wrestling is what finds the limits. If you can go over the limit, do you stay away from the limit? What is the limit? Something that could be considered outlandish may actually be able to get pulled off, So that's what I love about independent wrestling, and I've been podcasting for almost 3 years now, as well with our show. We got the WNC network.
Oh, nice.
Originally started as one show, now it's grown to a whole umbrella of multiple different kind of shows: pop culture, news, psychology show, but of course wrestling's still a big part of it, and a couple different shows like that, and just to follow the news and see everything's going and how things are right now. I'm probably rambling right now, but I feel like it's going to be a good time for wrestling again in many facets.
No, I absolutely agree with you, and this actually turned into a three-way collision of podcasts.
Right, I know.
Cool enough.
My first time involved in the three-way. That's great. That's great.
Sadly, not my first, but well, not sadly. Depends on the day, but that's a whole nother podcast.
I just got burned while making my own joke.
So what have you got for us here today?
Well,
So
not for us. Well, I hope maybe it's for us. Maybe
we're getting to see it.
money
first.
talks.
true.
Money talks.
True.
I accept dollars, pesos, and of course Chuck E. Cheese tokens.
There we go. But not Bitcoin anymore. I assume.
No, but does anybody accept Bitcoin anymore?
Did anybody ever accept Bitcoin?
It's it's low enough. Who knows? Maybe it'll come back, and I'm going to rue this day if I don't accept
true.
it. So, but I got something that's been in the works for a while. It's something that came to mind a while back. Me and my co-hosts, and this is something we can unveil a little bit here for Punk. You guys are actually the first people to get the official unveiling outside of those involved.
Well, of course.
So it's great to be able to see that, be able to do this. You want me to just unveil it or give a little bit of a preemption?
Give a preemption. Tell
Give
us
a
the
little
story.
story.
So there was two things that came to mind with what I'm about to show. Billy Corgan taking over the NWA. In many ways, I see, and he's been doing great stuff. I mean, he's built up. We're bringing back the Crockett Cup. He's honoring history. He's brought back the national title with a classic look. Whether you like the look of the design of the belt or not, he's honoring the history. It's beautiful. I love that part. But the one thing that I felt was a little negative, but I understand completely, was when he took over, he officially ended after 70 years. He officially ended the territorial system of the NWA. And I went to some of the different events here or there. My ex-girlfriend lives in South Texas, and I remember when I visited her, I took her to an NWA Wrestling Revolution event in McAllen. I got to meet some of the people there. And those guys, I know the guy who used to own NWA Georgia Wrestling, so many other feds across the country, and now they've reverted back to their old names or made new names, and they seem to be doing great. But Billy Corgan officially ended the territorial system, and I understand it every way, but it's also bittersweet because at the same time, very more bitter because so many things happen on a territorial basis. You look at the days, the Monday Night Wars came from two feds based in states people wouldn't have thought of, and I'm not knocking them. The WWF based out of Connecticut, and WCW, which is its historical home, was back out of North Carolina. But you had Don Owens with Pacific Northwest out in Oregon. You had Bill Watts based out of Oklahoma and Louisiana for Mid-South. 4 or 5 different territories in Texas alone. So the regional and territorial basis was ended with the NWA. The other item that came with this was, as I was mentioning before, was a friend of mine, one of my co-hosts. He knows a wrestler by the name of Osby Tomlin, who at one point held the Cult of Kayfabe championship belt. And to learn that Cult of Kayfabe had a championship with everything they were going, it gave me the idea of seeing if that was something that could be done. So between the ending of the NWA's territorial system and from learning from Cult of Kayfabe, I created something. For the record, this is not the original box, it's just it fits, okay?
Oh, okay.
So it's anybody's looking at this going, oh my God, did you get it from Amazon? I wish. But you
I'm
guys
sure
get...
Amazon probably sells belts. We just don't know it. I just never looked it up. I'm going to look it up now.
You guys are getting the official debut of the WNC Florida Heavyweight Championship.
Whoa. Look at that.
What this is as you guys are looking at it, I always prefer the silver look rather than gold. In some ways, gold is beautiful, but I served in the military, and if you look at military ranks, silver ranks gold. I'm sorry, guys. Maybe good for the Olympics, but not for me. But got a good black tint going on. The state is colored in purple. Purple's the color of royalty, and in many ways, Florida is a royal state. I got a sandy blue, wavy kind of look going on to the background for Florida, showing the rugged terrain for the water and the sands, especially during hurricane season.
Yeah.
And all the side plates are the 4 regions of Florida going across. We've got West Florida, we've got North Florida, we got Central Florida, and South Florida. And every single one of them has got 2 stars representing 2 major cities from each of them. Pensacola and Tallahassee, Jacksonville and Gainesville. I should have added Ocala too. You know, they deserve love. Tampa and Orlando, and finally Fort Myers and Miami. And going on, we had to add some gold, of course, to it. You know, even though it's silver, you gotta. We had the belt done in a bit of an aged process as well, so the belt looks a little bit beaten up, and we had a good tinting going onto it, but I decided to get a little bit of with the trim they put on top to get a little bit of chipping to add an aged look. What this is with the ending of the territorial system, it ended so many belts across the country that I was following up with. Like I knew Bad Blood, who was one of the last NWA Pacific Northwest champions. I was following the NWA Georgia Heavyweight Championship. I was following the NWA Florida Heavyweight Championship out of the FWA. And what this is basically following the concept from the NWA Florida Championship. By no means am I saying that this is a continuation. We're not even close to being worthy of that. But what this is trying to continue and bring back the tradition of a championship that represented a single region, one state, which was so much small in population compared to what it is now. We're the 3rd largest state in the country now. We surpassed my native home state of New York by well over 1 million people now. But back in the days, 30 years ago, during Championship Wrestling from Florida, it was smaller. It was much lower population. I love the Back to the Territory series with Jim Cornette. Kevin Sullivan said it best, the days of Orlando, back in the day was when the town met the farms. Now it's the mecca for tourism in Florida, you know? And this is honoring all 4 regions, and the hope is to see this championship defended in all 4 regions, bringing back the idea of not just naming a championship belt, but legitimizing it. You know, if it's a championship belt that's defended in one place only, can you really call it what it is? My dream and my goal is that when a champion wins this belt, when they're crowned, over time we're going to see this belt defended between here and Central Florida, all the way down to South Florida, all the way to West Florida, and then North Florida. This is going to be bringing back the history like we used to see back in the day when guys like Dusty Rhodes, when Kevin Sullivan, Bob Roop, Kern, all these guys that held the Florida Championship, and seeing them defended, whether it was in West Palm Beach, in Tampa, in Orlando, Panama City, all that stuff. We're going to see all this happen again, is my hope and dream with this belt. And we're fortunate that we can make our first announcement that Punk Pro Wrestling is going to be the first Fed that's being involved with this. We have another Fed that's already involved. Paperwork has been signed, but I'm not going to announce it without them saying it. But I can at least say that 2 Feds are outright involved with this, and that's the goal with this. Punk was the first ones to jump at this, so to make any official announcement about this, the only way I could do this is if Punk was to be announced first.
You know, the great part is we were talking earlier when we were recording about how it's very interesting that how many independent companies now are starting to work together and be able to help each other out, like Punk Pro and Ignite and Brawl USA and Nerd Street. So I think definitely using Punk Pro as the leaping pad for this one is a great way to go, because with all those other companies that are starting to work with each other on this one, Punk Pro being the linchpin, I think we're going to start seeing this all over the place pretty soon, and I think that's excellent. So
I appreciate it. And
now the other big thing I am seeing here is obviously that has your guys WNC up on the top there.
Yeah.
That reminds me a lot of the Wrestling Nerds Radio Network Internet title that'll be defended tonight. Methinks there might have to be a champion versus champion match at some point once
as
this
long
one
as we
gets.
don't have a unification.
No unification. No unification.
But
No, but
no, I definitely like that. I've always loved the concept of the internet title in many ways, and going back to the days of the television title.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like I said, my first Fed I watched was WCW, and I love the concept that the World Television Championship was only defended on TV.
Right.
You know, not on pay-per-view. You had some places that did that. ECW did it, and all the love to Rob Van Dam. He made the TV title equal to the world title in the eyes of many people.
Agreed.
But, you know, the idea like the internet championship going around, whether it's through iTelevision and so many other ways you got going for it, I love that concept.
Definitely.
And it's an unlimited world as long as the population of this planet's growing.
right. So
Well, gentlemen, I think they're about to start the show here, but Johnny Florida, thank you so much for involving us in this unveiling. It's absolutely beautiful, and it's going to have a prestige. There's no question. If just the make and the craftsmanship says anything, it's going to be a prestigious title for some time to come.
I hope so. I really hope, you know, I won't. I'll be pretty quick about it. But when I told the guy to make this belt, I showed him the designs of the classic Florida title from back in the days of CWF and the NWA Florida title that was made from 2003 on. You know, under guys like Mr. St. Laurent, if you remember Mikey Batts and all them wrestling in NWA Florida. I showed him those two designs and I said, try to combine them if you can. And when I saw the original design, my heart sunk a little bit because I couldn't have foresaw the belt coming out more of honoring the NWA's look of it. And the WNC name is on it, but I don't want it to be the centerpiece. It's on here, but the focus is Florida. The focus is our Sunshine State, the palm trees, the water. That's going to be the focus. I want the WNC. The WNC network is amazing, and I love being part of it and seeing us grow. And in so many ways we're doing that, and I love that, covering the news. But I wanted to be just shy of under the breath. The WNC Florida Heavyweight Championship, that's the main words. This is the champion not for the WNC and not for an individual Fed, but this is the champion of Florida, the champion of the Sunshine State.
Well, and with the way wrestling appears to be going, who knows? There may be a WNC Georgia championship or a WNC, Tennessee championship if things continue to grow and do well in this business. But like I said, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to cut over to Punk Pro. Guys, if you're missing this show, you're going to regret it. Thank you so much for sitting with me, and I look forward to doing this again soon.
yeah, thank you for making potting with me. So until everybody back home listening on the Wrestling Nerds Radio Network, we always say deuces. And as I don't know if they have an outro, so I'll let him do it.
I just say goodbye.
Okay.